And what a pleasure to be with you here tonight. So Hillel's mission, as you can see, is to inspire every Jewish student to build an enduring commitment to Jewish life, learning, in Israel. And of course, you might think that Jewish life, learning, in Israel would be the most important parts of that statement, but you can see by the fact that we've highlighted the words every and enduring, that that's actually how we see our mission. Every means every. This is one of the most diverse, maybe the most diverse generation in the history of the Jewish people. They come from every geographic background, every socioeconomic background, every racial background, every religious background possible. And our job working together is to make sure that every Jewish student feels connected. So as the Federation says, we don't lose one of those very precious souls. But enduring means that the contact we have with them, the connections we have to be meaningful and deep, so that when they leave college, wherever they go, whatever they do, whoever they do it with, they will know that a part of the identity that they have become as an adult is to be connected to the global Jewish people. So, you know, this federation and federations around the world support all kinds of Jewish education. You support early childhood education, you support religious schools, support day schools, support camping, young adult education. All of this is incredible, and I thank you for it from the bottom of my heart. But you won't be surprised if you hear me say that there's something really special and unique about that college experience. It's true for a couple of reasons. First, as I've already mentioned, they're coming from all sorts of backgrounds, right? And they're so spread out. But when they come to college, they're actually in a relatively confined space for 4 years, well, maybe 5, maybe 6, depending on how long it takes them to get their degree. But the fact is that well over 90% of college-age Jewish students are in fact on a college campus. It gives us a special opportunity to reach them and wrap our arms around them and engage them. But also think about the time of life that the students are in. You know, whether they're commuter students or whether they're residential students, the fact is that until they go to college, if their families were involved in the Jewish community, then they were likely involved. If their families weren't, then they weren't involved. If their families were involved in religious life in synagogue or in Israel activities, then they were likely involved. And if their families were not involved, then they were likely not involved themselves. But when they come to college, for the first time, they're making their own decisions about what they want to be and how they want to be connected, and what kind of community they want to be a part of, and whether they feel at all a responsibility to that broader community. And the fact is that is the opportunity and the responsibility that Hillel is there to address. Another way to think about it is this. You all know sort of the famous joke we often tell among Jews. If you meet somebody in the Jewish community that you know you've seen before, but you can't remember where you saw them, what do you say? You say, well, we met at Sinai. Right? Well, what's that joke based on? It's based on a rabbinic midrash, rabbinic story, that says that it wasn't just the 600,000 Jews that came out of Egypt who made it to the foot of Mount Sinai, but in fact, any Jew who's ever lived and will ever live was at the foot of Mount Sinai when we received the Torah. And so our mission, our responsibility, the Hillel role, is to make sure that every Jewish student sees their place at the foot of Mount Sinai and understands that there's a place or a chair with their name on it and a particular role and responsibility for them in that global Jewish people. And I just want to stop for 1 second and say that that is exactly what's happening here at the Hillel on this campus. And this campus, of course, this Hillel serves 6 other campuses, 7 campuses total. So I can't say thank you enough to this community for supporting this Hillel, and to Rabbi Breckman for his leadership, and Isaac Toe and the board for their leadership. Please thank them. Because they really are, as Ben said, an exemplar of what Hillel should be all about. So let's talk a little bit about this generation. Who is this generation that we're trying to reach and we're trying to build leaders out of? Well, first of all, they're the Starbucks generation. So what do we mean by that? Well, first of all, you know when you go into Starbucks, everybody orders their own thing, right? Their dape or their latte or their decaf or their non-decaf or hot or, double shots. I can't even do it right. And so it's individualized. And then what happens after you make your order? They put your name, they ask you your name, and they put your name on the cup. It's personalized. This is a generation that expects individualized and personalized attention. This is also the Facebook generation. They've been smiling for pictures their whole life. This is the generation that grew up with everybody having a camera in their pockets. Remember, when I was a kid, you had to go get the camera if you wanted to take a picture. Now everybody's got instantly, and they see on Facebook all their friends looking beautiful and happy and celebrating all sorts of wonderful occasions. And they know that's what's expected of them, but then they also know something else, that their own lives don't match up to that. They don't always know, by the way, that that's also true of their friends, right? They think it's only they that are home lonely and feeling isolated from the rest of the students on their campuses. That's what this generation is about. So what's Hillel's answer to this question? And by Hillel, I don't mean just Hillel the organization, I mean Hillel the elder, after whom our organization was named. Hillel's answer is community, You know, we Jews are, we're not an ascetic people. We don't live up on mountaintops or out in Walden Pond or out in the wilderness, right? We pray as a community. It's called a minyan. We mourn as a community. We celebrate as a community. We take care of each other. The entire body of Jewish communal life is built around living together and taking care of each other as a community. And so that is what we're building on Jewish campuses everywhere, the communities that they want to be a part of. You know, when I first became a president of Hillel, I was appointed, as Ben said, 4 years ago. So I first started going out to community meetings, and I'd introduce myself, and I'd say, stick up my hand, "Hi, I'm Eric Fingerhut. I'm the new president of Hillel." And the reaction was almost uniform. It was crazy. First, people would just give me this big smile, and they say, "Oh, that's great, Eric. Hillel's such a great organization. It's terrific." And then all of a sudden, they'd start to shuffle their feet a little bit and look down. And they'd say, "Well, but I didn't go to Hillel when I was in college." And they say, "I didn't really need to. I had Jewish friends at home or in the dorm or in class. And, I lived at home, or I was close to home. I could go home for Shabbos or for the holidays." And then they'd brighten up again and say, "But I'm really glad Hillel's there for those who need it." And my answer was always uniform. I'd say, "Look, I'm really glad you had a Jewish friends. You have a Jewish social network, and I'm really glad that you always had a place to go for Shabbos and holidays." I said, "But you don't understand. The question wasn't whether you needed Hillel. The question was that Hillel needed you." Right? Because in your class, you didn't know it, but there was a Jewish student who did not have that Jewish social network, who didn't feel connected, and was waiting for you to reach out to them and ask them to have coffee with you, and ask them to join and be part of the Jewish community, and ask them what kind of community they wanted to build and wanted to be a part of. That's the responsibility of Jewish communal leadership. It's the kind of community you build, and it's the lessons that we're teaching Jewish student leaders on campus today. So how do we do it? It's actually really pretty simple. Rabbi Bregman and the others here and his colleagues at over 550 Hillels in North America and 600 Hillels in 17 countries around the world, what do? They identify students who are leaders, they teach them and they support them and they train them, and they tell them to go out and meet other students and take them to coffee and ask the students who haven't come, what does it take to bring them in? We call them interns some places, or student leaders, or engagement, so whatever you want to call them. They call them different things, different places, but their job is to go out and build the community under the guidance of our professionals, but it's the students who are responsible. And then what happens? Well, you know what happens next. The students who they met the first year become the leaders the next year. And that's how a community continues to grow, and how a community ends up to be able to be strong, and how a community also can carry itself and hold itself together from one year until the next. Because the one thing about college campuses, there's constantly turnover. And a group that is, every year a group is coming, and every year a group is leaving. And we have to build and sustain that community. But those who are leaving are going out into the community and going out and becoming adults. And they're the people who are going to be sitting in your seats where you are, either in this community or in communities like this all around the world. And they must now know and assume that their responsibility is to build the kind of community for Vancouver, build the kind of community for wherever they land and wherever they end up, that they built at Hillel and they built on their college campuses. And if you now go back to that original mission statement that I shared with you, and you realize that all of this is being done to help build that enduring commitment to Jewish life, to Jewish learning, and to our homeland, the state of Israel, then you now understand what we call Hillel's Torah. Hillel's Torah is to build those founded, connected Jewish communities that will help carry on the traditions and help carry on the success and the future of the Jewish people from campus out into the broader communities. And that's why we do pay attention to what Hillel the elder said, because Hillel taught us that the more Torah, the more life. Marbe Torah, marbe chayim. So think about what the students are doing on campus as leaders and gathering that community together to build the enduring commitment to Jewish life, learning in Israel, that's in fact giving that community life. It's the Torah of the community that is giving them the life. And for that, we are so grateful. And we're so thankful to each of you and to this community for their support for Hillel and for the support of the building of the communities. But I am here to say to you that what you're building is not just the future of Hillel, you're building the future of your own community. Because I promise you that Ben and many, many more like Ben coming from this campus and coming from campuses all over the world will, thanks to the leadership that they've exercised at Hillel, be ready to come in and take their seats as leaders in this community. And so with that, I thank you for your support of Hillel. I thank you for inviting me here tonight, and I wish you a Shana Tova U'Tuka, a happy and sweet new year.